this is the ENVIROlocity interview series. It's part of a advice column to help you get your environmental careers, and there's also a blog portion that gives you more of the tips and advice. So on weeks when we're not doing interviews, we're writing and sharing blogs. So if you'd like to see those, they're on the website, and you can always join the email list to get those weekly. And then the interviews, as we do those, will also be shared in the emails. You can subscribe on YouTube also to get notified when they're published. So this is our fifth one. And so we're just kind of getting started. Over time, we'll have an entire library for you to look through to see who's doing what in what fields and what you might be able to glean for your own career search. So this morning, we're interviewing Robbie Coville. He's an urban forestry hydrologist. Super cool. And also does some fun techie stuff. So Robbie, would you just introduce yourself? Thank you for being here, and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So as you said, my job title is Urban Forest Hydrology Specialist, and I'm working on iTree tools. It's a suite of public domain software owned by the Forest Service to quantify tree benefits. And there's a lot of different tools in the suite. They're all meant to be pretty user-friendly. So anybody, you could go look up iTree tools on your phone. iTree Design, iTree, MyTree are both very kind of entry-level tools. Sometimes work with school kids, showing them that. And my actual role there started more in a kind of tech support and liaison capacity, and it's shifted more towards a model development and project management role over time. I've been doing this job for about 4.5 years now. It is a lot of IT. Many of the tools are web applications, but the ones I work on are mostly C++ desktop applications and some Python code and this sort of thing. So that's what I'm doing now. Maybe from there, or I don't know if you'll ask about it later, like how did I get into this combination of things?
Absolutely. I think that's my couple of questions are coming to mind to me. And one of them is, which came first? Were you looking for an environmental career, or were you looking for something technology, or have you always had interest in both?
Yeah, good question. I, for my adult life, had interest in both, I suppose. My background in computers is from when I was younger. It was useful to learn some skills there. I was making websites, teaching people how to use computers, fixing computers, that sort of thing. And although that world is always changing, it's a little bit like riding a bike. You kind of figure out how to learn it again and get up to speed. So I've tried to update myself to the latest a few times since many years ago working on that. But my professional career has mostly been in forestry, and I did not look for a technology job in forestry necessarily, but I am really interested in the environmental benefits of trees. And so I felt very privileged for the opportunity to work on the project and use my computer skills, kind of connecting it with tree benefits and outreach for that, kind of getting it out there and making it easier for people to make the case with all that. The other key skill in the job is communications, kind of like technical writing, public speaking, adult education, and this sort of thing. As I said, a big part of the role is liaison between, I'm not necessarily doing the coding or the scientific research behind the models, but I'm getting the software engineers, talking with the scientists, with the stakeholders, with funding sources, and trying to make that work smoothly. So that's a skill that kind of came along the way a little bit naturally, and then a lot of practice and good teachers. Put them all together, and it was been a good fit, I think. That's how I ended up in it.
Great. So would you say this is pretty close to or completely different than what you thought, like maybe when you started to get your degree?
That's a good question. It's close to in topic. It's pretty far in day-to-day. In some ways, in the IT way. I guess project management is something that this kind of medium to high level project management is something that I've come to know as like a strength for myself, an area that I can excel in. So kind of saw that. but I didn't expect it to be, I didn't really think of like software development as something my environmental profession would take me to. And a lot of, so people come from it from two different directions. I was the environmental side into IT. I know a lot of people are in IT trying to go the other way.
Yeah, I run into that quite a bit, actually. People contact me from their desk jobs wanting to know how they can do a little bit more outside work.
Right. Well, you can do environmental stuff at a desk job.
Yeah. Yeah, there's all sorts of opportunities. So I think we have a little bit of that in common too, that I didn't end up doing a whole lot of, well, I did do some technical stuff in my job, but I ended up doing lots of project management. And because I had programming and data skills, it helped me advance a lot faster than typical. So you have, valuable. I don't know if you agree or what your recommendation would be to people who have the interest for programming or database management, project management. What kind of advice do you have for them to build those skills or put them to use?
Yeah, great question. Embrace it. I think with any skill, try to tailor it towards the needs of the domain that you're most interested in. So for me, it's trees and forestry. I can kind of see like in that area, some skills are going to be more in demand within the world of, say, dealing with computers or public speaking and this sort of thing. And in other environmental fields, if you know you're into big data on the IT side, or if you know you're into a certain type of environmental science, conservation biology and wildlife, kind of know you're going to need a strong statistical background. So coding in R, that sort of thing is going to be really helpful. And then for anyone getting started, passing on some advice I got through all this was Python and R, really good to start with. Python especially, because it's really just building that strength in understanding the logic of computers and computer programming. And from there, you can be a lot more flexible, kind of learn on the job. A lot of the jobs you're going to have to learn on the job no matter what. So building the capacity to learn and getting some projects under your belt that show you have the capacity to learn is a good way to position yourself for the kind of work you're aiming for.
I love that advice. The capacity to learn is huge. It takes so much time and effort and a little bit of dedication to continually trying to learn new things. So I think that is perfect. So take note, people. You need to build in the capacity so that you can have the time to do it. That's how we get stuck. People that I talk to and myself and people I know that, feel stuck or haven't moved very far in their careers over time, and they look back and they're like, what have I been doing? Have skipped over that building the capacity part, I think, and really trying to make time for it. So great advice. You also mentioned something about communicating. So in your experience, and what kind of advice could you give for people? Some of the career seekers I talk to are very personable and consider themselves connectors. And then some other people that I talk to are very technical. We have the engineers and the people persons. And what kind of advice do you have for bridging that gap, or what have you experienced on the job that helps you communicate clearly with your coworkers?
Yeah, that's a great question. Public speaking communication is a huge skill set in its own, maybe even like programming, although much softer skills. But like programming, there are technical aspects to it, so you can read tips and good strategies, and then you practice them, and you get stuff done with them, and you get better that way. But more specific to some of those techniques, one of the things that comes to mind is this idea in management. There's kind of different ways that as a manager you have the power to manage, and I think one of the better ways is think of it sort of like a path of sympathy, where you can kind of be on the same level as the person that you're working with and understand the tasks that they're going through. Maybe you can't do them at all. Maybe you can't do them as well. Ideally, you can sort of do them, but not as well, probably. or you're busy with other stuff, but having that capacity to engage in the same tasks you're trying to manage goes a long way in building that sympathy and kind of seeing eye to eye and all that. And other techniques too to help you see eye to eye with somebody. One, of course, is respect and integrity. Even if you don't know the answer, it's really important to just communicate that. And working on scientific software that can be pretty complex. It's a lesson I've found very valuable is make sure you can know when to say you don't know, and how to figure it out, and communicating usefully around that. And then so we're kind of 3 points. One was managing by being able to do it as well. The other kind of respect and keeping integrity. And then maybe I will leave. Oh, the third point was being relaxed and sort of confident. Confidence goes a long way. Having backup plans goes a long way to having confidence. Both if you're, say, interviewing, it's a key communication challenge, and if you have some okay backup plans, that's a huge asset. Safety nets are good. Helps us just relax more and be comfortable as we communicate. Same thing on the job. If you got to communicate something challenging, know a few different options in your head. It's like a management plan. Don't just have one alternative. And so it just keeps it comfortable and makes it easier to deal with the nuances and things that come up as you go through challenging communications.
Yeah, that's all really good advice. And I think that manifests in a lot of different ways. I see, like you said, on the job, in an interview, I'm always encouraging people when they have interviews coming up or they're going for that second interview, they have a tendency, not even a tendency, they almost always stop the job search. And then so they're in that interview and they have to get it because they don't have any other, irons in the fire. They've only got the ones, stream now. So even in your job search, as you're looking, you can be more confident even when you're interviewing or networking with people, knowing that you're putting out a lot of feelers and trying to have a lot of options out there. And then also, I think what you said about, just coming from an internal place of respect and integrity is great. So wonderful. I think it probably speaks a lot to, like, I kind of think that you're pretty young in your field and you seem to have a really good place in it. Like, do you feel good about where you are and what your future is in your career path?
Yeah, thanks. I do, although I'm kind of switching things up right now. So you catch me at a funny time. We can talk more about that. But yeah, and I think it comes from those things, comes from having done the different sort of technical skills that I'm working on managing now. I spent some time doing a little bit of it all. So there is truth in, if you're jack of all trades, you might not be a master of any. But I think being a generalist is a skill in itself. So honing in on that has really helped me feel more comfortable, with my capabilities, and learning to prioritize that kind of respect and integrity also helps me stay comfortable even when I inevitably make mistakes. Just keep moving forward and improving. And then staying relaxed, kind of trying to have backups really helps. I like this idea in making management plans of kind of like, what's your suggested approach? What's your closest to doing nothing? What's your like fallback, lowest hanging fruit option? Not that it's good, but having it.
Right.
And then what's another alternative? Even if you don't think it's needed or you don't think it's good, just have something else out there. And thinking of things that way, again, it kind of scales pretty well, whether it's specific on the job thing or jobs in general. What am I doing for a career? I think that really helps build some kind of clarity and confidence. But yeah, I'm thankful for for where I've ended up, despite it not being exactly what I would have expected. Like we were talking about, working on computers around tree benefits. I'd like to touch soil and trees more on the job, but I'm heading in that direction. And it's an iterative process. It's been great learning opportunities and opportunities to contribute to the field along the way. I credit being a generalist a lot for that. I recommend people embrace that more. I think it's scarce now.
Yeah, I think I'm on that same side of things, and it does become challenging because you have a tendency to, even yourself, maybe look at people who seem like they have like this expertise and they know what their thing is, and it's like, man, should I be more like that? But it's really good, I think, for you to say, and for more people to keep saying that it is okay. And it's wonderful to be involved and to want to learn about lots of different things. And then how can you combine all those different things that you have? They come to the table in different ways. Like I'm a photographer, so what you see behind me is mine. And that, for me, manifests in work as a powerful observation skill. I get into the details and I see bigger picture plus zoom in.
Yeah,
and right. Plus it doesn't hurt to be out in nature and be able to take a good photo. But I also love, yeah, I could come out with you sometime. So I love what you said too about just, if you don't know it, it's okay to say it. So I think as generalists as well, we get afraid of that because then people might think we don't know anything. Or say, because you're not an expert in this one field, you don't know anything. But I think it too, I think, depends where you put yourself. If you are working for someone that doesn't appreciate that, then maybe you need to think about whether you're in the right place. Because
yeah, and if your job requires that, some things you need to know some technical skills, and if you're not there yet, then maybe step back and try to build a stronger foundation in those areas, or pivot to something else, find the things you are strong in. It's like great advice to improve your weaknesses, but you also want to find a place you can kind of thrive. So
great. But back to what you said, it's a continual process, and you'll get there. Just keep moving forward. Let me then ask you then, what is your favorite way to network, or how do you spend your time networking?
Good question. Especially, I met you through one of the ways. I think community is really important as a just in general kind of part of life, and my kind of professional community, environmental community is a great one. I think other professions, maybe software engineering, it's really saturated. There's a lot of people out there, but even there, you can kind of connect with people with similar interests in that area. And when you share curiosities with somebody, you can dig into it together, and that's a good way to connect. So I guess to be more specific, try to engage in kind of events around the professional community, the areas I'm interested in, and get involved, get my hands dirty, both literally and figuratively, and that just connects you with all kinds of people who are trying to do the same thing. So that's probably my favorite way. It's certainly not the only way. Friends of friends, and being able to just reach out to somebody also is an important skill. It's not my favorite way because it's a little anxiety-inducing. Cold calling somebody, cold calling, or cold emailing.
Right.
But you got to try it, and especially in the environmental field. Actually, I think it's extra worth noting being willing to reach out to somebody and ask for help. I've been very inspired by how open a lot of people are in the environmental field to kind of mentor each other and look out for each other. We want to see each other succeed. It's one of these things where we know there's so much work to do, so we're not feeling too anxious about like, it's not enough to go around. There's plenty of work to be done. We need kind of all hands on deck. So we should mention how we met, I guess, is through the Syracuse Association of Environmental Professionals. Hope I'm getting that right. And that was a friend of mine through my time at SUNY College of Environmental Science and Forestry, Critica. Thanks for inviting me to that event, and met a lot of interesting local environmental professionals through that, including yourself. So that's a good, very neutral. Anybody can come, try it out, talk to some people. If you're shy, just belly up next to somebody and just listen in, and go from there.
Yep. I think that's the best advice for people for networking is just join the conversation, especially with environmental professionals, because we are all on a common mission. And we do know, like you said, that it is a big job we have to tackle. So we need everybody, all hands on deck. So if you are eager to learn and an enthusiastic person, I would be shocked if people didn't want you around.
Yeah. Right.
So,
Robbie,
you are a wealth of knowledge. And again, I look forward to seeing where your career takes you and hear more about these new things that are happening for you. Because I started late in the game, so I get a little bit jealous of youngins who are out there making stuff happen so early. But that's why I do this. I want to help more people get to where they want to be and to be making the difference. And so I always like to ask 2 questions at the end. One, quickly, in hindsight, is there anything you would have done differently so far in your career?
Great question. I like to think of not having regrets. It's all a learning, iterative process. So I wouldn't change a whole lot. I think if anything, I would maybe make more haste, not get as comfortable, because you got to always be really working hard to improve yourself, even if you find yourself kind of well situated at any given time. Always be trying to get better, and been doing that. But I could see some projects that I'm working on now would be that much further along had I taken them more seriously earlier on, when I kind of had them on my radar, but was like, well, I'm working on other things now. But yeah, that's a balancing act in itself. So
yeah,
I guess putting that as advice for other people, I would phrase it a little differently. I guess I would say, maybe this seems like a 180, but I would actually say, don't spread yourself too thin. Really engage in the things that are catching your attention and your interest. Don't put it off till later. Dig in and see what you find.
Awesome.
It's like a tree analogy. Best time to plant a tree 20 years ago. So
plant your roots now. Okay. And finally, the lightning round. I ask you quickly a set of 2 words, and you just off the top of your head, which one you just want to go with, whether you prefer it or just saw it yesterday, whatever. Dogs or cats?
Cats.
Yes. Wetlands or uplands?
Wetlands.
Bike or run?
Bike.
Webinar or podcast?
Podcast.
And ask everyone this one: recycle or repurpose?
Oh, repurpose. Repair. Yeah.
Excellent.
Tighten those nutrient cycles.
So finally, do you mind if I share your contact info, and anybody who's watching who has a question about iTree or something wants to contact you? Do you mind?
Absolutely. Yeah, all things ecosystem services, iTree stuff, happy to talk about. Also, permaculture, agroforestry is kind of the direction I'm heading in. So those tree benefits for agriculture. Happy to connect with folks. As I said, there's lots to be done. So yeah, embrace your inspiration. Reach out.
Great. And do you have an event that you need to plug? I apologize. I don't know if that already happened.
Not in particular. Although one thing I will plug, especially for local Syracuseans, is Alchemical Nursery. It's a local permaculture nonprofit and Food Not Lawns chapter. we're in the midst of our we're in a fundraising campaign now for peach trees. For one, we're trying to spread the word about the bounty of peaches in Syracuse right now at a few of our public forest garden sites, and the different wonderful foods that can come from that bounty. And we're also trying to get more trees and kind of make this bounty available to more people. So look up Alchemical Nursery. If you can contribute to that fundraising, great. If you can just get involved, we always need more hands on deck, especially in terms of leadership, board of directors. It's a really good way to get involved and kind of step it up a notch with a pretty accessible entry level, but it'll be a boost for you. So yeah, check it out.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. If you send me those links, I'll include those in the descriptions as well.
Great.
And yeah, I think we're beyond our time. So thank you so much for sharing so much information and your time. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.
Yeah, thanks, Laura. Bye, everybody.